They called her Vermin and threw her into the trash. No one thought a human would love her. The alley behind the Galactic Trade Center on Station Epsilon-7 reeked of decay and discarded dreams. Kree-Va huddled behind a rusted waste compactor, her bright green hair matted with filth, her blue skin covered in bruises that had long since turned purple. The leather straps and metal canisters she'd fashioned into makeshift armor clinked softly as she trembled in the cold. "There's the Vermin," a Luxarian merchant's voice echoed off the narrow walls. "Someone throw it in the incinerator before it spreads disease." Kree-Va didn't run. There was nowhere left to go. She'd tried every sector of the station, every corridor and crawl space, and everywhere the response was the same. Her species, the Kalythians, were considered pests, scavengers without a homeworld, without rights, without value. Station security had stripped her of her identification chip 3 cycles ago, declaring her presence detrimental to commerce. A waste disposal unit rumbled to life above her head. Someone had activated the emergency dump. Kree-Va looked up just as a cascade of refuse poured down. Spoiled food, broken electronics, chemical containers. She curled into a ball as the garbage buried her, each impact sending fresh pain through her already battered body. The darkness was almost a relief. She didn't know how long she lay there, drifting in and out of consciousness. The weight of the trash pressed down on her chest, making each breath a struggle. This was how she would die, she realized. Not with dignity, not fighting, but smothered in the unwanted remnants of other people's lives. Then she heard something, a sound that didn't belong in this place of abandonment. Footsteps. Human footsteps, if her failing senses could be trusted. "Jesus Christ," a male voice muttered. "What kind of monsters run this station?" The pressure began to lift as strong hands dug through the refuse. Kree-Va wanted to tell him to leave her, that helping her would only bring him trouble, but her voice wouldn't come. Her throat was too dry, her lungs too compressed. Light suddenly flooded her vision. A human face appeared above her. Weathered features, gray stubble, eyes the color of Earth's oceans. He wore the simple jumpsuit of an independent trader, stained with oil and age. "Hey there," he said softly, his tone gentle despite the horror in his eyes. "I've got you. You're going to be okay." Kree-Va tried to speak, managed only a wheeze. "Don't talk. Save your strength." The human, he couldn't have been more than 50 Earth years, carefully lifted her from the garbage pile. She weighed almost nothing. Starvation had seen to that. "My ship's not far. We'll get you cleaned up, get some food in you." "Dangerous," Kree-Va finally gasped. "They'll fine you, arrest you for harboring vermin." The human's jaw tightened. "Then they can try. My name's Marcus Webb, and I don't leave people to die in trash heaps. Don't care what species they are." He carried her through the service passages, avoiding the main corridors where security drones patrolled. Kree-Va drifted in his arms, unable to process what was happening. Humans were rare this far out in the Perseus arm. They were considered peculiar by most species, emotional, unpredictable, prone to irrational attachments. But they weren't cruel. Not like this. Marcus's ship, the Wandering Star, was an old Terran cargo hauler that had seen better decades. But to Kree-Va, being carried up that boarding ramp felt like entering paradise. The medical bay was small but functional. Marcus laid her on the examination table with surprising tenderness, then began carefully removing the makeshift armor she'd constructed from garbage. Each piece told a story. A bent food tin that had protected her ribs, strips of plastic she'd woven to cover the worst of her wounds. "This." Marcus's voice cracked. "This is incredible. You made all this just to survive." Kree-Va nodded weakly. "Kalythians are resourceful. We have to be." For the next 3 hours, Marcus worked. He cleaned her wounds with medical gel, used the ship's basic scanner to check for broken bones, programmed the food synthesizer to create a nutrient-rich meal compatible with her biology. He asked questions, gentle, curious questions about her species, her situation, her life before the station. Kree-Va told him everything. How the Kalythian homeworld had been destroyed in a corporate mining accident 2 generations ago. How the survivors scattered across the galaxy, only to find themselves unwelcome everywhere. How station after station, world after world, designated them as invasive species, as pests to be eradicated or expelled. "I was an engineer," she whispered, her voice growing stronger with food and rest. "Before they took my credentials, I designed waste reclamation systems. I was helping them, and they still threw me away." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with anger, not at her, but for her. "My species knows something about being thrown away, about being told you don't matter. We've done it to ourselves enough times throughout our history." He met her eyes. "That's why I won't do it to anyone else." "Why?" Kree-Va asked. "Why risk everything for someone like me?" Marcus smiled, and it transformed his weathered face. "Because you're not someone like you. You're someone. Period. That's enough." Over the following days, Kree-Va healed. Marcus shared his food, his medical supplies, his stories. He showed her the gardens he kept in the cargo bay, real earth plants growing under artificial light. He taught her how to play chess and laughed when she beat him after only 3 games. He treated her not as a charity case or a pet project, but as a person deserving of respect and dignity. "I have a proposition," Marcus said one evening as they shared a meal in the galley. "I need an engineer. A real one. Someone who can keep this rust bucket flying and maybe upgrade some of her systems. The pay isn't much, but you'd have a home, a purpose, and safety." Kree-Va stared at him, her eyes wide. "You'd trust me with your ship?" "I'd trust you with my life," Marcus replied simply. "You already saved it once, in a way. I was getting pretty cynical out here, forgetting why I started exploring in the first place. You reminded me that there's still good work to be done. Still people worth fighting for." Tears streamed down Kree-Va's blue cheeks, the first tears she'd shed in years that weren't born of pain or despair. "I accept." They shook hands, human and Kalythian, forging a partnership that would become legendary in the outer sectors. Together, they would rescue 17 more Kalythians over the next standard year, establishing a hidden colony on an uncharted moon. Marcus became known as the human who loved vermin, a title he wore with pride. And Kree-Va, the engineer they'd thrown in the trash, designed the most advanced sustainable habitat in the Perseus Arm, proving once and for all that value isn't determined by how others see you, but by what you build with the chances you're given. In the darkness of space, among the unwanted and discarded, they created light together. And that made all the difference.